Should the Detroit Pistons play their main core guys of this roster during the final 2 games of preseason, a back-to-back to end preseason? We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. In today's episode of the podcast, we're going to start off talking about whether the Pistons should be playing all of their guys to end preseason. They haven't been able to play all their guys to start preseason. They got a week off. Should they be wanting to play all their guys in the final preseason games? We'll also talk about Monty Williams apparently having a goal for the Pistons to be in the middle third of the pack defensively across the league. Is that possible? And then I want to end it with John Hollinger apparently believing the Pistons have the worst roster in the entire league. Does he have, reason to believe that? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to start off with this. Should the Pistons be playing all of their guys to end preseason? So I want to read out, I want to read this exactly what I saw before I comment on it. This is James Edwards' third tweet. He said, Monty Williams said he might change up the rotations minutes these final 2 games since it's a back-to-back and he wants to get to the regular season healthy. However, he also said the main guys need these games to get comfortable with each other, what the staff is teaching, etc. So I took that. I want to talk about whether the Pistons should be playing everyone, and I think so. I think they should play everybody. I don't care that it's a back-to-back to end preseason. I understand you want to get to regular season healthy. Every team wants to get to the regular season healthy. If you obviously do not want any injuries to happen. However, especially for a team like the Detroit Pistons, who have a brand new coach, who has a young franchise caliber player in Cade Cunningham, who hasn't gotten to play a lot and who we have seen now over the last 2 years, have a little bit of let's say a rocky start to his seasons before really picking it up. You'd like that to happen in the preseason. And that's just on those 2 guys. There's a bunch of other guys that have joined the roster, Monty Morris, Joe Harris. You got other guys competing for roster spots. You want to get some familiarity with your players, with your rotation heading into the regular season. You probably don't want that to just be, sprung upon them first game and they didn't get any of, real reps at it throughout the preseason. So I think the Pistons should be playing anybody who can play. Anyone that can play should be playing. Everyone. Bojan and Monty included. I'm not saying that they're not actually hurt or they're not actually dealing with stuff. But if it is just simply like load management, the Pistons should not be load managing already in the preseason. They're not that good of a team to where they can load manage while maintaining these expectations that, the front office and everyone has in this organization has of them. They need as much time as possible to gel together, and they need as much time as possible to learn this new coaching staff. Monty Williams said it himself in this tweet. And I'm not saying that he confirmed that he for sure is not going to play everybody or not play everybody. I know he did, it's something that they're considering, obviously. But even Monty Williams said that the main guys need to get these games together with the staff to understand what the staff is teaching, what the schemes are, etc. If you don't play everyone, like if you play, the starting lineup without who would be let's say Bojan's supposed to be in the starting lineup, and Bojan hasn't played at all in the preseason. But then as soon as the regular season starts, Bojan Bogdanovic is going to be implemented into the starting lineup. Is there going to be familiarity with that? Are they going to be on the same page? Are they going to be clicking on the same stuff? Is he going to have chemistry with the guys in this new scheme as they're not playing at all throughout the preseason? I don't know. Especially Cade. I'll say that. Ashton, Cannon, if you guys are watching this, hello. But Cade needs to be playing in the preseason. He does. Now, he missed that second preseason game, and Ashton, like we talked about, immediately went to Twitter and said, hey, this is just preseason. If this was regular season, basically saying if it was regular season, he'd be playing. He's not really that hurt, blah, blah. And then he since deleted those type of tweets. But basically went out there, and I felt like it basically saying, it ain't no serious injury, relax, it's preseason kind of thing. However, unless it's some serious injury, actually, you know what? I do see the double sides to it. But I think Cade needs to be playing in preseason as much as possible. For the reason I suggested before, they usually take some time at the beginning of the year, the last 2 years, to ramp up a little bit and get into the groove of things. Secondly, he's coming off injury, so he's going to need some more time, even more time than he's had the last few years to really ramp up because he hasn't played NBA basketball it's been a year. He hasn't played NBA basketball in a year. He's coming off a major surgery. And he needs to learn his new teammates and the coaching staff. And he's the most important player on this roster. Most important player by far. He needs to be getting as many minutes as he can in preseason to get off all the rust and start the season off fresh and start the season off at his absolute apex, at his absolute best possible. And I don't think you can do that if you're not playing throughout the preseason, playing realistic minutes in the preseason, not doing things or doing things in preseason that you actually will be doing in the regular season. All that kind of stuff. They need to be getting those reps with Cade. They need to be getting those reps with a Jalen Duren and Cade, with a Bojan if he can play. Like, I understand to back-to-back in preseason, and back-to-back in preseason is just insane. I don't know how that happens. That's stupid, NBA. But nonetheless, I play everybody. I play everybody. This is a young roster. They're not an old roster. This isn't a team that, can just like coast by during the season. No, they need as many reps as they can, all of them. They need as many reps as possible together to hit whatever it is their possible ceiling is this year. And it starts in preseason. Preseason matters, okay? It does matter. I don't think preseason is just worthless. It's there for a reason. It's to get you ready for the actual season, and you need to take it serious. So I would play everybody, though I understand the thought of, well, I'd rather just be in the regular season healthy. I think that's kind of playing, you're playing a little bit on the, not a little bit, very much so on the cautious side. I think there's a fine line between cautious and playing scared. And I would just play everybody throughout the final 2 preseason games and treat it seriously. So that's what I would do. Do you guys believe that the Pistons should play everybody possible during preseason, or do you think that they should wait, don't risk any injuries and go into the regular season fully healthy and just play everybody the first night? Now you don't have to worry about anyone possibly getting hurt the final 2 games of preseason. Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. When we come back, can the Pistons become an average defensive team? Is it even remotely possible? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Jase Medical. Everyone should feel confident to take care of themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Jase handles everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. With Jase Medical's Jase Care, you get 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All you have to do is fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of their board-certified physicians. It's doctor-created and doctor-recommended. Along with Jase Medical, they are now offering customability for your own Jase case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose the medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. Jase is continually working to expand their medication offerings. In those recent efforts, they added ivermectin as an option in the Jase case. Also, you can buy gift cards for your family or your loved ones so they can get a Jase case for their own. Jase case is great. You need to be ready for any situation life wants to throw at you. Who knows what goes on nowadays, what you need to be ready for, and Jase Medical has you covered. So go to jasemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com for a $20 discount on your order. That's JASC medical.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So another thing that apparently Monty Williams was talking about after practice, he was asked about what is a realistic defensive ceiling for the Pistons this year. They're a very young team, obviously. They have, it's obviously a new coaching staff that they're learning. And they've dealt with some injuries, and it seems like that a lot of their players at this point, a lot of players in their rotations are like a James Wiseman, a Marvin Bagley, a Bojan Bogdanovic, a Monty Morris, and I hate to do this, but he has to be included, a Cade Cunningham. Like, all these guys have missed how many injuries in the past few years. Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren's already getting hurt. Not serious, but like they've had some injury concerns over the last few years with this team. With all that considered, just what will be the ceiling for this team defensively? And just to give you guys an idea of where they were defensively this past year, they ranked 27th in the entire NBA in defensive rating at 117.8. The only teams that had a worse defensive rating than the Detroit Pistons this past year was the San Antonio Spurs at 119.6. That's surely going to jump for them with Victor Wembanyama. The Houston Rockets at 118.6. That's surely going to jump with all the defensive guys they went out and added to their team. And the Portland Trailblazers, which they might stay a bad defensive team. But the other two teams are going to be infinitely better defensively. And then that leaves the Pistons at the 27th team. So Monty Williams says the goal that he has for this team when it comes to defense is that he would want to be in the middle third of the pack. So kind of basically it sounds like average, be an average defensive team. He says he, quote, wouldn't be happy with that, but he understands the situation and history. And again, I'm getting this from James Edwards III. Is that possible? Is it possible for the Pistons to get to the middle of the pack defensively? So the middle of the pack in the NBA would be around like the 15th spot in the NBA. So hovering around, I would assume like 15 to 18. That would be like what I'd consider the middle third, somewhere around there. So if you can hover around 15 to 18, it seems like that's what Monty would want. The 15th to 18th team this past year, these are the defensive ratings. The Denver Nuggets were 15. They won the championship. They had a 113.5 defensive rating. 16 was Brooklyn, same defensive rating, 113.5. The LA Clippers, 113.6 at 17. And the Orlando Magic at 113.7, 18th. That's 4.1 points better than the Detroit Pistons were defensively this past year. If you look at the defensive rating rankings amongst the NBA teams, in the middle of the pack, there's not that big of a difference between all the teams. They're all very, very close to each other. So, like, for example, let's look at this. The Philadelphia 76ers were 8th in this past NBA at 112.7 in defensive rating. You go all the way down to the Orlando Magic at 113.7. That's 10 teams all within a point of each other defensively. So they're all very close. And along with multiple teams between 13 and 17, all tied around 113.5, 113.4. So the reason why I'm pointing that out is that the middle of the league is all really hovering around the same area. Like they're all hovering around the same area. And average defense, a lot of teams seem to have basically average defense. But then you have to drop damn near more than 4 points to get to the Pistons. There's more of a difference between the Pistons and the 18th team than there is the 18th team and the 8th seed, the 8th team in defensive rating. I bring this up because San Antonio is going to jump defensively. They got Victor. I'm going to believe that they're going to be better than the Pistons defensively. And the Houston Rockets are going to be better than the Pistons defensively because they went out and added defenders. The Houston Rockets went out and actually got defenders to be a better defensive team. And that's why I'm incredibly interested to watch how this season plays out. Because Troy Weaver has talked nothing but defense all offseason. Monty Williams has talked nothing but defense all offseason, all training camp, all preseason. All we hear from the players are, we got to be good defensively. We got to be better defensively. We can't be bad defensively. All that stuff, yada, yada, yada. If you have a focus on defense, you usually make like efforts in the offseason to shore up the defense. And I don't want to hear Asar Thompson is like the big, they got Asar Thompson, that's going to save everything. Asar Thompson is a 20-year-old rookie, and while it looks like he might be a good rookie defender instantly, there's no way any NBA team goes into a regular season saying the reason why we're going to be better defensively, unless it's Victor Wembanyama, who is one of the most freakish athlete I probably have ever seen in my life. Unless it's Victor, You're not going into your season saying, oh, our defense is going to be completely changed and different and warped because of that 20-year-old rookie we just drafted. It doesn't happen. NBA teams are not putting all that on one player. If you want to be so much better defensively, you go out and get defenders, which is what the Houston Rockets did, which is why the Houston Rockets are going to be much better than the Detroit Pistons on the defensive end of the floor. The Houston Rockets identified defense as an issue. They knew they had to get better defensively with this young squad. They knew they needed to establish some kind of identity defensively. So they went out and got Fred VanVleet. They went out and got Dillon Brooks, both guys who are really good defenders in this league. The Pistons basically kept the same roster and added Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser on it. So, do I think the Pistons can be a middle-of-the-pack defense this year? No. I can't see it happening. Now, could it happen? Obviously. Nothing's impossible. But with the Houston Rockets already, I'm expecting them to jump. The San Antonio Spurs expecting them to jump. The only team that would be left behind them based off last year is Portland. And can the Pistons jump ahead Indiana? Can they jump ahead Dallas that actually went and got defenders in Grant Williams? Can they jump? Maybe they could jump the Sacramento Kings. Are they going to jump Utah? I don't know. Are they going to jump Atlanta? Possibly. The Wizards? Probably. The Hornets, who are really good defensively after the new year this past year. I don't know. If the Pistons actually added defenders, then I say, yeah, that's a reasonable expectation, but they didn't. So what you're really relying on, and that's why I'm really interested to see this season, because I want to see were they right to rely on this. Because we have to wait to see how the season plays out to know if they're right or wrong. They're really banking on, one, schematic changes with Monty Williams. Is Monty Williams going to be that schematically different and above what Dwayne Casey was defensively, to where he's putting guys in the best position possible and works perfectly for the Pistons? Is Monty Williams going to be that much better of a defensive coach? And also, are the Pistons going to have that much internal development on the defensive end of the floor? I personally, I don't see it happening. The Pistons are going to be playing Bojan Bogdanovic, who is not a good defender at all at his age. They're going to be playing Monty Morris, who's not a very good defender. They're going to be playing, if they do play Joe Harris, which it looks like they are, it's not going to be that good defense. He's not that good defensively. Alec Burks was one of the worst defenders on the team this past year. Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman are your backup five options, and neither of them are good defensively. And if your fives are bad defensively, good luck trying to anchor a defense. Jaden Ivey, I'd love to see him get better defensively this year, but he was really bad. He was one of the worst defenders in the league this past year. So it's like that's the roster they brought back. They didn't really – all they added defensively was Asar Thompson. And we've yet to see him play. Now, I know we've seen him play through 2 preseason games, and he's looked really good defensively. But we haven't even seen him yet in actual NBA games playing defense. So who knows? So do I think middle of the pack is reasonable? No. I think what's most likely a ceiling for the Detroit Pistons. They were 27th this past year. I think their ceiling is like 22, 21. Like maybe 5 spots. And that's simply due to maybe Atlanta, Washington, and Sacramento. Those are the teams I could see them jumping defensively. But I mean, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. That's why, again, remember before this season, before the preseason, I should say, started, I told you guys in the podcast this season is going to be so much fun to watch because there's so much exciting unknowns. Like, this is one of those exciting unknowns. I want to see how obviously they want to be better defensively. I want to see how they go about it. What's the defensive scheme going to look like? What positions are they putting guys in? And is that good enough and internal development good enough to make up for the fact you didn't go out and get defenders? If it is, you're a freaking genius. Like, the Pistons were geniuses. If it wasn't, it kind of blows up in your face. I can't wait to see how it plays out and what it is schematically defensively that they're trying to do, especially when they have everyone healthy. I'm really interested to see what they're trying to do there and seeing if it works out or not. I'm really excited about it. So let me know what you guys think. Can the Pistons be an average defensive team this year? Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Cougar Hill. When we come back, do the Detroit Pistons have the worst roster in the NBA according to John Hollinger? Is he right? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. This app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. The Pistons over-under on the season is 28.5 wins. How are you feeling, Pistons fans? Are they going to go over 28.5? Are they going to go under 28.5? You feel confident on either of them? Head over to FanDuel. And FanDuel saw the future with the Lions as well. Before the year, they had the Lions as betting favorites to make the playoffs. They had them as betting favorites to win 10-plus games. And right now, the Lions are 5-1 on their way to winning the NFC North, making the playoffs and winning 10-plus games. FanDuel seems to know it all. I trust them if I were you. That's the kind of stuff you can look at and do over at FanDuel. So again, visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season with a $200 bonus bet when you place a $5 bet with FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Again, use code LockedOn for that $200 and bonus bet with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So I didn't even see this happen. I didn't even see him say this. I was just scrolling Twitter before I started the podcast. I was just scrolling Twitter. And apparently I had seen that John Hollinger apparently believes, according to his models, and he said some other things, but I don't want to really get into anything John Hollinger goes into. But he thinks the Pistons apparently are going to have the worst roster in the entire NBA. Now, you guys know this. You guys know I'm not the most, happy-go-lucky Pistons person. Okay, I'm not the biggest happy-go-lucky, person covering the Pistons. Like, that's not what I am. I think I've been fairly realistic. I think I am, some fans may call it maybe too pessimistic on the upcoming season. I think their ceiling is somewhere around like 32 to 34 wins. That's where I believe. Is that play-in worthy? Probably not. Like, that's where I'm at with this team. I'm not, being biased because I cover the team. However, the worst team in the NBA, the worst roster in the NBA, that's pretty damn disrespectful. I can't lie to you. That's pretty damn disrespectful. The Portland Trail Blazers, I think, probably have a worse roster than the Pistons. Maybe the Utah Jazz. The Washington Wizards. Okay? Like, now let me, I'm not going to sit here and troll, okay? I'm not going to sit here and troll and act like there's a lot of them. That's the end. That's the end of the list right there, okay? And the list doesn't go long. It's a very short list, okay? It's not like I'm not, rolling out the scroll and reading through it all. Like, it's a very short list. I understand. But the Pistons are not the worst roster in the NBA. Now, does that mean that they just can't be the worst team in the NBA next year? Like, I'm sure it's in the realm of possibility, just like it's in the realm of possibility that they make the playoffs. Like, yeah, it's in the realm, but I don't think they're going to be. And if they... Being the worst team in the NBA with Cade Cunningham on your team, if Cade is who everyone thinks he is, there's no way that can happen. There's no way it would happen. If Jaden Ivey is who everyone thinks he is, there's no way that will happen. If Bojan Bogdanović simply is what he's always been, there's no way that can happen. If Jalen Duren is who everyone thinks he is, there's no way that can happen. Like, Monty Morris apparently is supposed to be this... I was told all offseason how Monty Morris is one of the best backup point guards in the NBA. If that's true, there's no way it could happen. Alec Burks, these guys are NBA players. There's no way that they have the worst roster in the NBA. Especially if the Detroit Pistons or if Cade Cunningham turns out to be what we all think he can be with the Detroit Pistons. There's no way. Cade simply himself will stop this team from being the worst team in the NBA. I think that's absolutely and utterly disrespectful to say. And John Hollinger has never been a fan of the Pistons. I don't think I've ever seen him say one nice thing about the Pistons. Not one time. I don't think I've ever seen him giving the Pistons any kind of positive criticism, or not positive criticism, any positive comments. I don't remember what he thought about the Pistons drafting Cade, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gave him an F for that and said that Cade was going to be a bust. Like, that's how big of a hater John Hollinger is of the Detroit Pistons. Like, he nonstop it feels like he goes out of his way to take shots at the Pistons whenever he can. Like the Pistons could draft Jesus Christ, and he would still probably find a way to criticize that move. Like, so I don't put too much into what he says, to be honest, but I saw people talking about this enough to where I wanted to comment on it. Is there a long list of teams worse than the Pistons? No, it's not a long list at all. Again, it's probably like maybe 2 to 3 teams. But are they the worst roster in the NBA? No. Cade himself will stop that if Cade's what we think he is. Cade will be better than any player on the Washington Wizards. Cade will be better than any player on the Charlotte Hornets. Cade will be better than any player this upcoming season on the Portland Trail Blazers. The Utah Jazz have Laurie, but if Cade maybe could get to that level this year, that would be great. But there's no way. If you believe in Cade, there's no way. That's all I'll say. If you believe in Cade, there is no way this team can be the worst team in the NBA. Now that doesn't mean they can't be bottom 3. Doesn't mean they can't be bottom 4. But worst, again, unless some injuries happen, there's no way. No way in hell I believe it. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's actually possible the Pistons have the worst roster in the entire NBA? Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter @CougarHill. That's all I've got for you guys today. Please hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe. Enjoy this Pistons game against the OKC Thunder. Find somewhere for you guys to watch it. I'm sure there's somewhere. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.